three words that I'd like you to consider tonight. The first word is children, the second is brothel, and the third is slavery. Now these are three words that we can all easily associate with human trafficking. But we can't really associate these words with human trafficking if it's a topic we don't really know a lot about. And why is it a topic we don't know a lot about? It's because it's something that we really try to avoid because we think human trafficking happens on that side of the world and not really here in the United States, when in actuality it really does. Now, tonight I'm going to talk to you about what human trafficking is. I'm also going to talk about how someone becomes involved in human trafficking, and I'm also going to talk about ways that we can prevent human trafficking. So, according to UNODC.org, there are three parts involved in human trafficking. The first is ACT, and this is the way that they get involved in human trafficking. This is how the child gets sold into prostitution. The second way is means, and usually this is how you transport that child from one place to another, or this could even be the harboring or the holding of children in a certain location. And the third is purpose. Now, human trafficking has two parts to it. First is sexual exploitation, and the second is forced labor. Now, DHS.gov says that human trafficking is a modern day form of slavery, and really it is. Now, the thing is, human trafficking is getting so big that it is soon to surpass the drug industry. That is how much money is being made in human trafficking. And why is that? Drugs can only be sold once, but humans can be sold over and over and over again. And it's an ongoing cycle. And so that is why there is so much money that is being accumulated from human trafficking. So, how does someone really become involved in human trafficking? So let's say we have this little girl. We're just going to call her Maria, and we'll say she lives in Bolivia, because Bolivia is a country that has a lot of human trafficking in it. So Maria is this little girl. She comes from a very poor family, and she doesn't really have a lot of education. And this rich man comes up to her and says, "Hey, I own this nice fancy restaurant. If you come work for me, I'll provide your family with money, and I'll have a way for you to get educated, and you'll have a good job to support your family." This sounds like a good idea to Maria, right? So she follows this man to the restaurant. She looks around. Everything looks really normal, nice restaurant. But he says to her, "Let me take you to the back room because you need some training, because I don't want you to spill any water on my customers, because that won't look good." So she follows him to the back room, and as soon as she walks in for training, she's immediately in a brothel. And this process happens all the time because these children don't realize that they are getting tricked into getting sold into human trafficking. So that's just one of the many ways that human trafficking can happen to little children. Now, how can we really stop human trafficking? Well, if we were to rescue kids from human trafficking, according to RememberNew.org, there's an 80% chance that children will go back into human trafficking because they don't have a proper way to support themselves outside of human trafficking, and their family won't know what else to do because they won't be getting any money. Also, human trafficking is extremely expensive. With the amount of therapy that it costs to help just one child afterwards, it takes months and months and months. And it's over $2,000 to take one child out of a brothel. And that is extremely expensive. So the best way to do it is through prevention. And that's what Remember New does. They take these children that are in these at-risk situations and put them into a home. There they get the proper food, they get proper education, they're taught about Christ and His love, and through this, with this education that they're provided, all the way up through college education, they're able to learn a proper trade, they're able to have a job, and they're able to support themselves outside of getting sold into human trafficking. And with that, they're able to help the children that they eventually have, and their children's children, to help give them the proper education that they need. Now, what I have here is one of Remember New's catalogs. And through sponsoring, I've received this catalog, and it shows different forms that we can contribute to organizations like them. Whether it's one-time donations or sponsoring child, we can always help out in the little ways. So tonight, I've talked about what human trafficking is, how someone becomes involved in it, and what we can do to help it. Together, we can help end human trafficking.